Okay, welcome back to round two of the vintage tournament. Uh, right now we have Jack Skirianos, I hope I'm not butchering that, versus Kyle Paggio. And Jack's playing a version of Oath of Druids that's taking advantage of the Burning Wish package. Eric, do you want to talk a little bit about it?
Yeah, this deck is a lot of fun. Tons of bombs. It has game versus everything in the format. It's explosive, and it can win games through Gristlebrand, through Tendrils, and through Burning Wish for Empty the Warrens.
It,
It also has a fun trick post board versus workshops in Sideboarding and Lab Maniac to actually win by decking itself. So this deck can do it all.
it seems like a way more powerful version of the legacy deck of Tin Fins, the Reanimator Storm deck that takes advantage of Grizzlebrand's draw ability.
Yes, and not as graveyard dependent.
Right. One thing you mentioned about this deck is it's very bomb heavy, which I think gives it a lot of game versus a lot of decks because it's not wasting slots with any counter spells. It plays 4 duress, but it doesn't have to counter anything because if your opponent counters a strong play, you can just follow it up by an even stronger play.
Yeah, you're not really overly concerned with what your opponent is doing. The only concession it does make is it has 2 Hurkyl's Recall, which is a way of interacting with the workshop player if things get out of hand.
Right, but that can also be a proactive strategy with Tendrils in the list because it can bounce all of his mocks and then replay them for Lethal Storm
Absolutely.
and mana generation as well.
It can. The deck can do a lot in terms of playing out of bad situations. We'll see here we've got an explosive start
Oh wow.
with Lotus and Tolarian Academy. See if there's any other acceleration to go along with that. Lotus is out of there before
Surprised he
tapping
doesn't float
Academy.
mana first.
And Wheel. Well, that would be an
Oh,
excellent
that's a
reason.
good reason, yeah.
Well, that is
That's a
quite
way
the
to fix a
start.
mulligan. Tolarian Academy, 7 new cards. And Kyle is in virtually the same position, possibly worse, because he chose to keep that first hand and he has to keep this 7.
Yeah. Wheel of Fortune into an opponent's bad hand. Oh, look at this. Is he passing? Or is he looking at the graveyard? Or just looking at the graveyard?
Life from the Loam. That could be interesting. I saw a Wasteland as well.
Well, the fun part about that is now he knows exactly what his opponent is playing based off of that graveyard. Yep.
Perfect information is very strong. Oh, he's exiling the Necropotence.
Well, then he must have a much stronger play.
I see a Burning Wish and an Oath of Druids in hand.
We got black mana into Duress.
Mental
And
Misstep. That card's legal in this format.
we have some fireworks early.
Wow. Did he pass the turn?
No, he's
He's still
in the
thinking
tank
about it.
here. See what he comes up with. Misstep is amazing in Vintage right now. The synergy with Snapcaster Mage is unreal versus the blue decks. The downside is that Misstep is really bad versus workshops.
Oh.
And that is all we have. Going back to Kyle.
I saw a Force in Kyle's hand.
Well, that is good news for him. Oh, we've got
Strip
the
mine.
strip mine. Things are going bad quickly here.
Well, Forbidden Orchard off the top would kind of put him back in the game.
Oh, absolutely. As long as he has
Gemstone Mines, that's something. It's not
oath to
Forbidden
go with it.
Orchard, but he can still make an Oath play or a Burning Wish for some sort of value card. Maybe Yawgmoth's Will. He seems to have some gas in the. He's got the Black Lotus in there in the yard, so that could lead for a very strong Yawgmoth's Will. Burning
And
Wish.
we've got a Burning Wish.
Let's see. What do you think he's gonna get? His other options are Show and Tell, Balance, Thoughtseize, Empty the Warrens, Tendrils. I think it's gonna be Yawgwill.
Will is the most likely culprit here.
And then he'd be able to replay his Tolarian Academy as well.
And potentially Wheel of Fortune if he doesn't find a better play.
Right. Yep, Yawgmoth's Will. And then pass. So he needs to draw some form of discard to protect that and make sure it really sticks to the table. That's Yawgmoth's Will is not a spell you want to get countered.
He may not have that luxury, though.
Right. But he always has the Oath in his hand as backup.
Oh, the good thing about Oath, against Kyle's deck, he's going to have a very hard time winning against an Oath of Druids once it hits. Jace the Mind Sculptor could potentially win, but aside from that, he's really looking at having to remove it. Now, he does have a bunch of removal in the Abrupt Decays and the potential for Trigon Predator and Time Walk.
He just Chrome-Moxed away that Oath of Druids.
He is all
in. One card left in hand, 2 cards. Kyle fetches in response. Probably does not want to use the Force of Will if he doesn't have to. It gets rid of a card. Oh yeah, Flusterstorm. That'll do it.
So we're looking at 2 cards here under Chrome Moxes, both of which could be potentially very good in the matchup. It is,
and he only played one Chrome Mox a turn. He could have just been making land drops. But on the other hand, they are very good off of a Time Twister or a Wheel of Fortune, and they do help you accelerate.
Yeah, when assessing a list like this, I tend to look at cards like Chrome Mox, Necropotence, and ask how good are they right now. Necropotence is the real bench test for me when I'm looking at playing a Tendrils list. If it's the type of card that I'm always going to be thrilled to have in my hand, it's time to play it. If not, then I tend to stay away from the Tendrils lists.
Oh, okay.
If drawing 7 and passing the turn isn't going to win the game, and versus a deck like Kyle's, it probably wins you the game.
Right.
Versus workshops, not so much. A lot of the time they'll lock you out on the turn that you give them.
And Kyle has a reasonable sized hand right now versus Jack's 4-3 now. Storm of 2. So I see he's playing Mox Opal, which is metal crafted right now. It's going to be interesting in next month when he can play multiple Mox Opals and have them act as Lotus Petals.
Yeah, that's really going to improve the quality of that card. Demonic Tutor's very dangerous here.
Yeah, and he's tapping out. Well, he's not tapped out, but he's got no more cards in hand. Oh, yeah, Snapcaster Flusterstorm.
So good.
Yeah, Jack's Hellbent versus Kyle's 4 or 5 card hands. And now Kyle has a threat on the table. So Kyle has everything established in this game that he wants. He's got a clock now, and he's got a significant card advantage. And he still has a Force of Will in hand as his kind of like catch-all if he doesn't draw a better solution. So this is a very, very strong position for Kyle to be in. And it's going to take some serious top decking for Jack to come back from this.
Yeah, he's going to have to throw bombs at him until he runs out of counters. And he only has 10 turns.
And he can only do it once per turn at this point. Well, he could potentially draw something that would allow him to play more than one spell a turn, but that seems like it would just get countered.
I mean, saving up multiple spells for the same turn can certainly help. And we force...
Wow, Kyle's got 2 more forces in his hand.
If that Jace hits and starts Fate Sealing, this game is likely over. Jack is going to need to draw multiple bombs.
So next turn, I think we're going to see a Jace.
Unless Jack can force him to pitch the Jace to force here. Duress. Well, that's really good there.
Yeah, I guess you take the Jace.
A force is still a problem, but Jace ends the game.
Right. He has a couple outs. He could have a blue card or a land drop. Looks like, what is that, a Vendilion Click? I'm not quite sure. Passes.
Now, it's interesting that the Deathrite Shaman exiling cards...
Exiling Duress. Seems like probably not the best thing he could have exiled. Maybe Demonic Tutor. Maybe Yawgmoth's Will. Because Josh can still draw Time Twister. And he would get all those amazing cards back.
Yes, absolutely. I would be looking at Yawgmoth's Will as
Right.
the first concern.
And then probably Demonic Tutor. Maybe Black... Well, you can't take Black Lotus, so...
He may not have been thinking about the recursion from Time Twister there.
Right. Seems like he sort of caught himself, though, on that second activation.
Yeah, 4 damage a turn here. This is...
He also has Force in hand versus Jack's... Oh, Jack has 3 cards. When did that happen?
We got a Burning Wish.
Alright. Let's see if something happens.
Looks like Kyle has Drain and Force.
Oh, yeah. I mean, Jack has to win this turn. He's dead next turn. Balance. That would be... Oh, he can't even cast it. He taps wrong. Oh. He did not have to use that Lotus Petal. Seems like he kind of just knew he was going to lose anyways.
And look at how devastating that balance would have been. Talk about throwing bombs.
It would have been 0 cards in hand, 0 creatures, 0 lands.
Would have brought him right back in the game.
Oh,
Kyle
man.
did have the counter, though, so it's
Yeah.
on the game, too.
Wow, that could have been a real interesting turn of events.
Now let's take a look at the sideboard plans here.
All right. I think, let's see. Kyle... I don't think Kyle has too much for that. Maybe not 1 or 2 Nile spell bombs.
Yeah, Spellbomb is just fine versus them. The ability to proactively counter Yawgmoth's Will and to draw cards off of it. I agree, you probably don't need the full set, given
No.
that you're going to actually want to use your Deathrite Shaman a lot of the time.
Maybe upgrade the 2 Steel Sabotage. Or Trigon Predator.
Yeah, those are options. Trigon being blue is at a premium.
Right.
You really want to make sure your Force of Wills are always active.
Live, right.
It doesn't look like Jack has... He does not have Defense Grid. That card can be a blowout versus control.
Right.
But, of course, Kyle doesn't know what his sideboard plan is.
Do you think he brings in the Ancient Tombs because he knows his opponent's on Wasteland?
I wouldn't think so. I would be surprised. I think the Ancient Tombs are really more
Just
to
for
deal with the
shops.
sphere effects.
Yeah.
Especially seeing as how Kyle's plan is actually to win through damage. It's not like he's using a Blightsteel Colossus or taking infinite
Right.
turns.
I don't actually see a whole lot that Jack would board in here.
No, there's really not a lot of options.
Maybe he brings in Thoughtseize so that he doesn't have to wish for it. But then, like, every card in his deck seems pretty crucial to winning the game.
Yeah, they're all bombs. I mean, the Hurkyl's Recalls are very weak in this matchup.
Oh,
'cause
right,
you don't
Hurkyl's
have...
Recall, yeah, that could come out.
That would be a totally reasonable swap of the Thoughtseize for the Hurkyl's Recall.
Okay,
And if he wants an extra bomb in there, he could bring in the Empty the Warrens as well.
right. You think he brings in Show and Tell, or is that strictly a wish target?
It's a pretty good card versus blue decks, because if they counter the Show and Tell...
You still have the card that... You still have the Grizzlebrand.
Yep, I've Show and Telled in Necropotence many times on turn 1.
Now, this deck is not running Dark Ritual, correct? No, I don't see Dark Ritual in there.
Yeah, oh yeah, it has 4 Dark
Oh,
Rituals.
4 Dark
Yep.
Rituals, okay.
Yeah, definitely going to
Just
need
missed it.
those.
So that'll help you get to that quadruple black you need to actually cast Grizzlebrand.
Yes.
But, you know, when you're playing Black Lotus and Tolarian Academy and a bunch of artifact acceleration, you know, that's not unheard of for like turn 2 or 3. You know, he counters your Show and Tell, he counters your Oath, and then you're just like, well, okay, how about Grizzlebrand?
Absolutely. The deck just keeps throwing stuff until it sticks.
I do like this list a lot. I could see myself playing it. I have some experience playing Vintage Storm, and it's just a whole bunch of fun. You know, like any deck, it can get hated out, but I think it has game versus everything. But it seems like Kyle has chosen a very smart list. I mean, he's got very strong controlling games versus every kind of deck. His sideboard is very specific, but it seems like he plays all the most powerful things for the particular matchups. Nature's Claim, the 1 mana removal spell for your Shops matchup, Yixla Jailer and Nile Spellbomb for your Dredge matchup. Those are probably your two most relevant enemies. And Piling Needle is a really strong catch-all in the basic forest.
Yeah, and the list is able to do that because of the versatility of Abrupt Decay. You don't have to have the Swords to Plowshares or Lightning Bolts that a lot of decks have been featuring, because you still have cards versus those random aggro decks like Goblins or Gaddock Teague-based strategies.
Right.
And it happens to be good versus a lot of permanents, including one of the scariest permanents this deck can face, Oath of Druids. Let's see what the opening hands do here. We've got Kyle looking at his
Jack
7.
being on the play. I think I see. I can't tell.
And it goes back immediately.
Oh. But he can have some. He can have some extremely strong 7-card hands.
Kyle's opponents have mulligan every time.
Yeah, Kyle's opponents have mulligan every time. Being able to keep your 7s means that you've got a nice distribution of spells and mana going on.
Well, that's what Kyle's list is really made to do. It's a pretty consistent list. It gives up a lot of explosiveness and a lot of the more broken plays available in the format to just kind of be consistent.
Right.
Whereas both opponents so far have been playing decks that are looking to do some of the most degenerate plays possible.
He's not killing you all in one turn, but he's got that slow and steady pace that'll grind out any opponent. There's lots of inevitability.
I like the Life from the Loam in his list. It's a very interesting addition. It's not standard. You don't see it very often.
No.
The ability to recur the Wasteland or Strip Mine lock, and the ability to get back lands to make Jace the Mind Sculptor.
Yeah.
I mean, that really puts Jace over the top. Not like he isn't amazing on his own, but it just
turns
makes
his brainstorm
it even better.
ability into an ancestral ability. All right, so he's keeping his 6
I see a Burning Wish.
and passing.
Holy cow. Is that actually what's happening?
Is that no?
I have written down as he's on the play game too.
He is on. Okay, he's not passing. That's I misunderstood that gesture.
Looks like he was just asking. All right, here we go. Oath.
Oath.
That is a big card that needs to get answered
Yep.
one way or another, and
Gotta
we have
force
a
that.
force.
Turn 1 Oath versus a creature deck is definitely about as strong as your plays get. It could only have been stronger if that Gemstone Mines was a Forbidden Orchard. And I suppose it could have been stronger if he had a Mox Jet and a Duress as well. That would be living
There's
the dream.
another Mox. And do we have a Show and Tell? What do we have here at 3?
Tinker.
Here we go. Now his juicy targets are Memory Jar.
Oh, yeah, Memory Jar will be very strong.
And there is no Blightsteel because you really want to hit Gristlebrand every time.
What's the casting cost on Memory Jar? 5?
5.
Yeah, so that cannot be Abrupt Decayed. Steel Sabotage would be interesting if he did not board it out. Oh, he's cracking it now.
It's usually the right play.
He hasn't made his land drop yet this turn.
Yeah, you're usually in a deck like this, you're going to be cracking your Memory Jar as soon as it comes into play to try and win right now.
Now, I don't know if this is still true, but back when I played Memory Jar, you're not allowed to look at your jar hand while you're on a... Wow!
Well, we've got 6 mana. Mind's Desire would be one of the best cards you could have here.
Oh my
Academy.
god, Tolarian Academy. Kyle's counting Storm.
1, 2, 3, 4.
Yep.
We've got the Soul Ring for 5.
He played
And
the
we've got a windfall.
he
We
played
are,
the Sapphire this turn too as well, right? So it's
I believe turn 1 was...
Emeralds, Gemstone, Oath Pass.
You're right. So we're one higher on Storm there.
Mental Misstep. Why not? I mean, it's a jar hand.
Oh, he thought about it, and is he not going to misstep? I think he doesn't want to add to Storm and figures he has plenty of mana.
Right, it doesn't actually change anything.
Using...
4 blue, 1 blue, and 2 colorless.
Looks like he's going to be playing the Windfall and drawing 7 more unless Kyle has a Force. Now this is where a card like Deathrite Shaman does not look fantastic. Tapping that mana on the first turn to get him in play may end up not impacting the game on any level.
Right.
It may just be over this turn if Jack can draw into the goods. He has plenty of mana, both black and blue.
Storm is pretty high.
This is exactly where you want to be with this type of list.
Yep.
And he knows Flusterstorm's not online, so...
It's pretty much force or bust. And he could get through 1 Force of Will with multiple bombs. Looks like he has that because he has Burning Wish and Demonic Tutor in hand.
Yeah, it's just a matter of how he wants to play it here.
Mm-hmm. Dark Ritual, sure.
Nice looking Dark Ritual as
Yeah.
well.
What is that,
beautiful.
alpha?
That looks alpha from here,
Yeah. Do you think the play here is to Demonic Tutor for a Duress and then Burning Wish for Yawgmoth's Will? Oh, he has the Thoughtseize.
So it did come in.
Yeah, nothing. What do you take? Flusterstorm? Just he can't do anything. Yeah, why not? Flusterstorm
So even if he did have the mana,
wouldn't be happening. So he Burning Wishes for Tendrils. Yeah.
and the Tendrils for
Yep.
lethal.
Yeah, that was a pretty bonkers turn 2. That was really strong Multi 6. I mean, turn 1 Oath of Druids, and then turn 2 kill you. That was insane. So turn 2 he tinkered for his Memory Jar and drew into all the mana, both Artifact and Tolarian Academy, and then from there he was able to play out his whole hand and then Windfall. Yeah. So I guess drawing 14 extra cards gets you there.
Yeah, if you build your deck correctly, it will. You have to have the mana to use them, and he certainly had that.
Right.
This really showcases Vintage being kind of the no-limit hold'em of Magic. One decision can end up impacting the entire game, which can then be the deciding factor of the match. Kyle, Force of Willing that Oath when there was no Forbidden Orchard may not have been the right play. That Force of Will may have been better suited toward another target.
Perhaps. But the Oath, I feel like, gives Jack that inevitability because Kyle eventually has to play a creature before he can kill his opponent. And I don't think he boarded in Nature's Claim.
Well, even if he did board in Nature's Claim, which he very well may have because
Maybe.
Oath is such a problem, I think we may have saw that. He still has the Abrupt Decays, so it's a question of who's going to draw their
Abrupt
card
Decay.
first.
Right, yeah. I keep forgetting about that.
It's a really versatile card.
Mm-hmm.
People think of it just as a legacy card, but this deck is changing people's minds on that.
Yeah, definitely. But like you were saying before, as we saw, Kyle had so many one-drop counter spells in his hand that he just couldn't use because he tapped out for Deathrite.
Yeah, the jury is still out on Deathrite, whether or not it's worth it to be tapping out turn 1. There are a lot of explosive turn 1 plays. That is not an opening that Kyle's going to be happy to see. A Forbidden Orchard means that he can get his Oath of Druids online whenever he wants.
To rest.
Into Misstep.
Mental Misstep.
I can't speak highly enough about Mental Misstep. It is such a good card right now.
Yeah. Oh, Wasteland.
And the Wasteland.
That's brutal.
And he has the attacker on
But he's
board.
got the creature now, so The Orchard's really done its job as long as Jack can follow it up with some mana development. But he cannot. Yeah, that's bad for him. So as long as Kyle can develop his board here a little bit while maintaining...
Ancestral alert.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, that's going to be a problem for Jack. Because that's going to allow him to find his second land, still have a mana open to respond to anything Jack does, and I think I saw a Force of Will in his hand anyways. So, he has a clock, and he has the control pieces he needs to really dominate the rest of the game.
Yeah, this looks like it may have been a weak keep.
Oh, he passes. No, he doesn't pass.
Yeah, he runs that out here.
And just a wasteland. That might bite him. But seeing as Jack has no mana, it also might not. Oh, he had to discard.
Discarding Gristlebrand. He is a long ways away from 8 mana.
Yeah. It's interesting that he taps both of his blue sources to play Bob there.
Yeah, I would consider that a misplay. You can always wasteland on your turn.
Right now he's got the right, because if you waste on your opponent's turn, they still get to use the mana.
Yes.
And it seems like he's kind of got his Force of Will in his hand, and he's just feeling really, really safe with that.
Yeah, the only way that can really bite you is if your opponent time walks and manages to chain 2 land drops together where they wouldn't have been able to otherwise.
Revealing lands off Bob is cheating almost. That's just so good. Now 3 damage is that's a significant clock.
Yes, this is very, very bad for Jack.
Drawing extra cards every turn, still missing land drops. I think that was the turn where he had to start to do something, because Kyle has so many answers. He's not going to just be able to play out all his bombs on his last turn and win. He'd need to have at least one turn of his bombs getting countered, and then follow that up with more bombs.
Now, are we having a EndStep?
Snapcast? Yeah, Snapcast on Ancestral.
That was technically done incorrectly, seeing as how Jack had discarded the Hercule's Recall there. But
right.
They are playing a little quickly.
Yeah. Plays like that can get a little tricky, especially if your opponent doesn't clearly announce, okay, I'm going to discard. They just go EndStep and then start to discard. It's like, wait a minute, I want to respond.
Yeah, and this game is over unless Jack can do something on his turn.
Right. He's, what is that, representing lethal, 6, 7 damage? Yep. Kyle's representing lethal damage.
Playing a Soul Ring.
Soul Ring pass is not going to do it.
Into Trigon Predator.
Is that a Alpha Soul Ring?
It is. The beautiful cards.
That's really nice.
As well.
Yeah. And I mean, that's one thing about these vintage tournaments is everyone's bringing the bling.
It is a lot of fun to see.
Yeah. You don't get to see that really anywhere else. Although Legacy is starting to reach vintage level barriers to entry with the prices of cards the way they are.
Yeah, you actually find a lot of people who play Legacy are playing no proxy vintage now because it's actually cheaper.
Yeah. And vintage is one of those elegant formats that's just you can invest in power and know that you'll play it for the rest of your Magic career.
Yeah, it's pretty much always going to be good enough to make the cut.
Yep. All right, well, that was round 2, and we'll be meeting you over in the 3rd and final round.